Hello everyone, and in today's video we are taking a look at one of the most talked about problems of Bitcoin, which is its high energy usage. I found this really interesting article which I will link below, and we will just go through quick points to give you a better idea what is actually happening and how it is really with the energy usage of Bitcoin. At the beginning of the article there is this idea that the high energy intensity of Bitcoin is a bit of misunderstanding, because the fact is that it uses a lot of energy. However, the benefits of Bitcoin offset its costs. The author also suggests that it cannot afford to waste any energy, the Bitcoin, and in fact it is the case that Bitcoin is not using enough energy yet. So we will now take a look what he means by this. In these following lines at the beginning there is just a quick explanation how the Bitcoin works, that it's on a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, and that all those participants on the network have to validate the transactions, and that the value of Bitcoin derives from the amount of participants and their purchasing power that use it as a medium of exchange. I guess from this we could imply that if more and more people, let's say the majority of people, use Bitcoin, the energy efficiency would be much better in comparison to the value added to the ecosystem. Then it goes over some history, how humanity used all kinds of different mediums of exchange, all the way from cattle, etc., then gold obviously, and how Bitcoin is a bit of a digital gold with its artificially set fixed supply of 21 million Bitcoins, and the difficulty to obtain from the artificially inherent decreasing and compute intensive issuance of new Bitcoins. However, this mining is not the only electricity used in the Bitcoin network. It's also used for securing exchange and account transactions. Also, there is a mention about the decentralization, all the jazz like independence, sovereignty, transparency, yet privacy, and ease of transmission and self-validation. So it's technically transmitting at the speed of light, and the validations take just few minutes instead of days, and a need to third-party validations, etc., storage in a physical form like you have with the current financial system, or let's say the old financial system. All the transactions are transparent, and yet their participants remain anonymous. So all these great features are intrinsically associated to its value and therefore its energy usage as well. Then we finally get into some very interesting numbers about the energy intensity, where we take a closer look at the footprint of fiat and gold in more detail. So as is it with the case of Bitcoin mining, the gold also needs to be mined in physical mines, which cost some money and a lot of energy as well. Both of these assets are very scarce and difficult to obtain, so that corresponds to the energy required to mine them. On the other hand, the reserve currency of the world at the moment is the US dollar, which is backed by the legal tender of the US government and the trust in the country itself. Nothing more than that. Though it is very hard to allocate with precision how much energy footprint there is of the US government attributing to fiat money, but here he makes some calculations. So considering that about 20% of US office space belong to finance, and office space comprise 14% of the almost 18,000 trillion BTU, which is British thermal unit of energy usage of the commercial sector in the US in 2019, then the US government used almost 900 trillion BTU in 2019, of which 77% was defense, and on top of that gold mining and processing uses on average 200,000 gigajoules per ton, with almost 3,500 tons of gold mined in 2019 globally. On the other hand, Bitcoin used about 40 terawatt hours in 2019. So let's put these numbers together and convert them from BTU into terawatt hours and see how it compares to Bitcoin. So here we can see the two numbers added together, so just shy of 19,000 trillion BTUs in 2019. So let's put this number in. So after converting these almost 19,000 BTUs to watt hours, we get approximately 5.5 thousand watt hours. Now we just need to figure out the trillions and terawatts, and quick search on Google gives us that a trillion is a number times 10 to the power of 12. And if we compare it to tera, we can actually see it is the same multiple, so 10 to the power of 12. So with this we can say that 19,000 trillion British thermal units is equal to about 5,500 terawatt hours. So this is the number in terawatt hours for the fiat currency in 2019 by the estimates from the author of this article. And if we compare it to the Bitcoin usage of about 40 terawatt hours in 2019, this number is over 100 times smaller than the fiat currency estimated by these assumptions. But even ignoring this difference, the Bitcoin still provides much more security, validation, settlement, and it's all under the same energy footprint. On top of this, you need way less people to actually keep this running. Apart from the users themselves, you need just some computation, and the energy was equal to 40 terawatt hours in 2019. In 2021, probably quite a bit higher. However, at the end I will show you possible solutions to this as well. Also, according to the author of this article, data centers dwarf Bitcoin's electricity usage by a factor of 4, so that would be even 100 times more for data centers than the fiat system we just calculated here. And nobody's really talking about data centers in a negative way in the terms of energy usage, at least not in the same way as they talk about Bitcoin's electricity usage. Also, if we assume that the 100 million people are using Bitcoin these days, that would mean that their allocated yearly energy usage is just 0.5 of the average US citizen. Obviously, the US has very high living standards among the world, but still they are one of the most energy intensive countries in the world, so keep this in mind. Also now about a little bit about energy efficiency. We know that Bitcoin is mined by doing iterations to solve a cryptographic puzzles, which is a process called hashing. The equipment has been getting specialized for this task, so even more energy efficiency in the computing power itself. So for the same amount of hash rate, less energy would be used with those optimized hardware. I think this optimization does not end today and will only get better from this point. Also, because we are dealing with bits and not physical particles like gold is a physical particle, the Bitcoin is the most efficient carrier and store of value that humankind has ever invented. Because it's just an information in form of bits, it can travel up to the speed of light, whereas the gold is very much limited by the physical laws of classical mechanics. However, still the issuance of paper currency itself involves much more modest quantities of energy, which is under 1.5 terawatt hours. However, the banks just don't increase the money supplies with coins and banknotes. They mostly issue loans and bonds by modifying the records on an IT system. So by doing this by fiat, the central banks are adding pretty much zero value, and we could even say that they are decreasing it because they are just increasing a number on a screen and that's it. So we could say in the end that it's not only that fiat money is not energy efficient, but in fact it does the opposite. It decreases the availability of useful energy. And if we take a look at gold mining for comparison, the mercenaries of the past didn't value the gold because it could be worn as a jewelry or usage in electronics, which is actually a pretty important part today. It was used as money because it was durable and scarce and malleable. So with those thousands of years of discovery by humankind of gold, 2/3 have been mined since 1950. So let's say it took about 70 years. Meanwhile, it took about 7 years to mine 2/3 of the supply of Bitcoin to ever exist. So about 10 times the difference. Much shorter time period, much more effective. Obviously, gold mining are near or at their peak efficiency at the moment. And here we have expected usage of the Bitcoin for this year, which is about 60 terawatt hours. And if we compare this to the gold mine in 2020, we could get both revenues, which comes from selling their respective units, and that would be $1.12 revenue per kilowatt hour use for gold and just $0.25 revenue per kilowatt hour used for Bitcoin. So what this means, it means that the mining Bitcoin needs to be 4 times more efficient in its use of energy under current conditions to be profitable. But taking this into account, mining gold is not bound for efficiency changes in degrees of magnitude, whereas Bitcoin is catching up and getting more efficient much more over time. There are some more interesting numbers in here, but in a nutshell, the future of Bitcoin looks very promising with great improvements in energy efficiency to come as the network transforms higher amounts of energy, where on the other hand, fiat is just a waste of energy because since they keep roughly a flat amount of energy, while increasing the monetary supply, their efficiency is always getting closer to zero. And in conclusion, we can now say that Bitcoin is very promising technology that converts energy that would otherwise not be used for work to valuable digital commodity. And because money is information, Bitcoin is the ultimate monetary system for its design to transmit, secure and store information through processes that need to be more efficient over time. And this is the ultimate point that anyone willing to produce Bitcoin, so mining, needs to prove that they converted energy to work, and if they are not efficient enough, they will just get wiped out by the market itself. So by moving the security, trust, transmission and storage to a handful of computers, Bitcoin can make money a more efficient conveyor of information than ever and improve energy usage everywhere. So the idea to take away is that Bitcoin is valuable because of its energy, and the more energy it uses, the more efficient it is at extracting value. So here at the end I promised some potential solutions for even better energy usage, which is the Energy Web. They have their own blockchain platform with their own token, which is called EWT. We may look into this in the future. If you guys are interested, leave a like or write in the comments below what you would like to see about this. And they have this really cool zero carbon renewable energy initiative, and this EW0 enables any renewable energy buyer, so whether it is multinational corporations or small and medium-sized enterprises or electric vehicle fleets, Tesla, decentralized blockchain networks, etc., to find and source procurement options from across a wide variety of digital marketplace globally. So this application helps simplify the procurement process, increase transparency about available options, and remove entry barriers and reduce various costs associated with matching renewable energy buyers and sellers, ultimately transferring ownership over energy attribute certificates and reporting the resulting environmental impact. So this is really cool, zero carbon, 100% renewable, all digital, and in fact they are getting some real big companies on board, as they mentioned on their AMA in January. So I will leave you in the end with a few clips from the AMA just so you can get an idea about what they do and what are their partners.
A couple more questions. We had several about Energy Web 0. Also, just a number of different ones. So some folks saw our tweets. We were going after Jack Dorsey on Twitter to say, hey, how can we help decarbonize Square? Because Square announced this pretty significant award. We also, I think there was a piece on CoinDesk just today about the opportunity for green Bitcoin mining. What does that look like tangibly? We're in conversation with some larger Bitcoin mines to think about what that could look like. we are approaching some of those larger financial organizations to think through what would it look like to build a simple user experience. So if you're using an application to purchase cryptocurrency, can you effectively pay a few basis points on top of your base cryptocurrency purchase to ensure that that cryptocurrency is green, right? So these are the kinds of conversations we're having with these financial organizations and crypto organizations about using Zero to help them decarbonize their energy supplies. It's like Amazon for energy purchasing, basically. What if you are Nike or you are Walmart and you're trying to procure renewables in a specific part of the world? You would log into Zero, create a DID, all the back-end functionality would be there in terms of sending messages and storing keys and everything. And you would use Zero to go out and find renewables on a marketplace somewhere in the world and purchase them, right?
So this is it for today's video. I hope you got some real value out of this, some other opinions on Bitcoin energy optimization and how it's looking in the future. If you liked it, make sure to smash the like button to help me with the algorithm, and consider subscribing for more Bitcoin and crypto content to come on the channel. Also, in the right hand corner you can check out my series on blockchain and cryptocurrencies. With this, I thank you for watching and I will see you in the next video. Cheers!